Defense News. It's proudly sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. If you're a member of our nation's armed forces, the Department of Defense, or if your family is, we'd be proud to serve you too.
On this edition of Defense News Weekly, we're going to get an exclusive look at the B-2 stealth bomber and the people that make it fly. We'll also find out why the British Defense Secretary was fired and break down a puzzling flip-flop from the White House regarding the Navy. With in-depth interviews, up-close video, and leading analysis, this is Defense News Weekly. Welcome to this week's edition of Defense News Weekly. I'm Jeff Martin. This week we have a treat for you, an in-depth look at the B-2 stealth bomber, including exclusive cockpit footage. But before we get to our coverage of that aircraft, let's take a look at some headlines. The U.S. Air Force has used their F-35s in combat for the first time, striking an ISIS tunnel network and weapons cache in Iraq this week. This makes the Air Force the third service after the Israeli Air Force and U.S. Marine Corps to use the 5th-gen jet in combat. The aircraft were from Hill Air Force Base in Utah and are deployed to Al Dhafra Air Base in the United Arab Emirates, where they replaced F-22s that recently returned to the United States. And the White House has canceled plans to decommission the aircraft carrier USS Harry S. Truman, a move that had been opposed on Capitol Hill. The announcement was made by Vice President Mike Pence, who was speaking to sailors on the carrier in Virginia. The administration had floated the plan to retire the ship as a cost-cutting move to allow more money for new technology, but the plan came out of nowhere in the budget proposal and immediately hit roadblocks in Congress. British Defense Minister Gavin Williamson was fired this week by Prime Minister Theresa May over allegations he was responsible for a leak from a meeting of Britain's National Security Council. May said she had lost confidence in Williamson over the leak, but he denies any involvement, saying a thorough inquiry would have cleared him. He'll be replaced by Penny Mordaunt, the International Development Secretary, who will also become the first woman to hold the post. Hurricane relief efforts at Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida have slowed down this week as the Air Force has run out of money to do so because of a lack of supplemental funds from Congress. In addition, the Air Force says that without the ability to move money around in the budget, known as reprogramming, it won't be able to fund advanced technology development like hypersonics or readiness improvements to their fighter fleet. But this comes as the Pentagon's ability to do any reprogramming has been slowed down by continuous shifts in money to the southern border. Poland could be buying F-35s sometime in the near future, according to the Eastern European country's defense minister. Poland has made clear they're interested in buying the 5th-gen fighter, and Air Force Secretary Heather Wilson recently visited and said a team would visit Poland to demonstrate the aircraft's capabilities this month. The goal of buying the F-35 would be to replace aging Soviet-era Su-22 and MiG-29 jets, and Poland has also said they're looking to buy 32 aircraft in total. And the Army has decided to make its Stryker combat vehicles, or at least those of the newest variant, more lethal, according to an Army official. The service will outfit brigades equipped with the double V-hole A1 variant with a 30mm gun, similar to what is already fielded by the 2nd Cavalry Regiment in Germany. Plans for the 1st Brigade are to be ready to go with the new vehicles by 2022, and the Army is figuring out which contractor will supply the gun and integrate it onto Strykers. On Capitol Hill this week, the nominees to be the next Chief of Naval Operations and Commandant of the Marine Corps had their confirmation hearings. Here's a look at what Admiral Bill Moran and Lieutenant General David Berger had to say during their testimony.
My question is, how do you see the introduction of unmanned platforms impacting force structure? What's kind of your vision going forward? What's the give and take that we have with our current force in terms of new technology being introduced? What does that look like going forward in your mind?
Sir, the first couple ships that we've got in the budget, we need to get after so that we can experiment with these to test out the concepts that we believe they are capable of doing, looking at different types of capabilities to put on those unmanned surface vessels. We're also doing the same thing in the undersea, as I think you know. Down the road, if these capabilities prove out to be as effective as some other current manned capabilities, then they would start to add to and complement the manned platforms that we have and would be part of our battle force. So I think we have to look at this carefully. We're a long ways away from understanding just how effectively we can operate unmanned surface vessels in a very congested ocean, especially in parts of the world where we operate day to day. So all of those will be examined as we move this deliberately but aggressively forward in the next couple of years.
The Marines are our Swiss Army knife. They do everything, but sometimes trying to be everything to everybody is a real challenge. And so Marines have to be first to fight, and you have to be flexible in dealing with the challenges. We focused on terrorism. Now it's great power competition, but the bombing in Sri Lanka shows that ISIS is, if they're not holding a caliphate, they're nevertheless still active all over the globe. How do you approach that question of not wanting to just be everything to everybody as a nominee to be commented on?
It was a fascinating article. There's more venues now for creative people to write, and they're all good. I think they ask questions that were asked internally, but now there's a means for them to ask them out loud. The basics of it for me, Senator, to answer your question, we know what our pacing threat is. That doesn't mean necessarily we're arming up to go after them or them after us, but that's the bar we must measure ourselves against. Now, all other missions are not subsets of that, but we can adapt. If we have the force that matches up against a peer adversary and maintains a margin of overmatch so that it's not a fair fight, like General Dunford says, as long as we're there, we can adapt that force to do any other mission we're assigned. But the opposite is not true.
To keep up to date with all of our coverage, be sure to visit our Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn pages. Also, be sure to add us on Apple's News app and other platforms for the latest updates. And when we come back, we'll go inside the cockpit of a B-2 and find out how to become a stealth bomber pilot. Becoming a B-2 pilot is one of the most difficult tasks in the U.S. Air Force, and those that fly the stealth bomber have to master much more than just flying. Here's a look at how they do that. The B-2 Spirit, one of America's most mysterious and most known warplanes. To some, it's a mythical beast flying high above, while to others, it's a point of pride.
The B-2 is a rock star, right? Anywhere the B-2 goes, it's an iconic airplane. Everybody knows what the B-2 is.
While many have seen it fly at sporting events and on TV, very few have gotten to see it up close. And of those few, even fewer have actually become a B-2 pilot, one of the hardest things to achieve in the U.S. Air Force. So how do they get there? It starts here at undergraduate pilot training, where students fly the T-6 Texan II and the T-38 Talon. Then some pilots head directly to B-2s, while others fly something else first.
Yeah, so we like people from all different kinds of communities because we can learn from each other everywhere. But to be a B-2 pilot and a pilot in the United States Air Force, you just have to be hardworking, driven, obviously intelligent, but most of the time is where there's a will, there's a way. Anyone who's willing to learn and to put the time and effort into it will make it through the program, and they'll typically become the best of the best.
It's kind of a melting pot of aviators here. You know, we get inputs from everybody, and we all kind of gel together and learn from each other's past experiences.
But regardless of where they come from, those pilots all come to Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, the home of the B-2 and the 509th Bomb Wing. Whiteman has been the B-2's only operational home, with the first operational jet arriving in 1993. And with there only being 21 of these aircraft ever built, and 20 flying today, it's a tight-knit community. And because of that, and the fact that the aircraft isn't easy to learn to fly, it's a highly selective process to even enter training.
We're just looking for really good pilots, just like any other community is looking for really good folks. So we need folks that can fly for a very long time at a very, very high skill level.
Once students arrive at Whiteman, they're assigned to the 13th Bomb Squadron, home of B-2 training.
There, they'll go through their initial qualification courses where they'll just learn the basics. Then they'll go into the bomb squadron and they'll teach them the actual mission qualification stuff, how to employ, what the enemy and the adversaries around the world look like so that we can counter them. And then as you get into the OSS and the more experience, we start to dive into the more technical features of it, and then exactly how to train people and how to teach them how to go and do that. We're a very small community, and because of that, we're allowed to have a smaller classroom setting. We typically have an initial qualification course of about 4 students at a time, and those are the 4 guys you kind of grow up with in your B-2 career. You'll go through mission qualification with them, and then typically you'll end up going through flight instructor course upgrade with them as well. And that's when guys start to break off, whether they go to weapon school or test pilot school from that point. But it really takes quite a bit of community to get them to that point.
While in training and as a qualified pilot, students will fly the 509th's other aircraft, the T-38 Talon.
The B-2 and the T-38 probably could be no more further from apart. The B-2, highly advanced, highly automated airplane. The T-38, which you see behind me, not a single computer in that. So in the B-2, flying is almost secondary. So your primary focus in the B-2 is mission. It's a fight. It's getting a through ship across the range. Where flying is almost got to be secondary and natural here. The T-38, flying is the primary purpose. It's, again, to keep those hands skills warm, to keep them fresh.
But when it comes to actually flying the B-2, pilots have nothing but praise.
It's a very smooth plane to fly, thanks to the flight computers that control its surfaces very well. It's a beautiful machine.
Another key aspect of training, beyond just flying the B-2, is the length of time missions take. Often more than 30 hours, which takes a huge toll on the body. As a result, pilots have to be able to train their bodies to handle that amount of time in the air. And at Whiteman, that training is the responsibility of Captain James Dreibelbus, an aerospace physiologist.
One of my goals is to keep aircrew performing at those high levels and achieve that optimization for that longer duration, X amount of period of time through different waypoints and time zone changes, and how those different factors are going to affect those individuals on board.
Since there are only 20 B-2s in existence, a lot of training flights have to happen in the simulators at the Mission Training Center at Whiteman. One key training sortie they oversee is a 24-hour flight designed to simulate a strike mission anywhere in the world. And according to one pilot, being in a simulator that long is almost like a road trip.
If you're stopping by the fast food restaurant and you get the double cheeseburger and the fries and the shake and everything, and you're going to put yourself to sleep. But if you don't eat anything, you're also going to feel miserable, so you got to find that happy middle point. And by doing that 24-hour WIS to get somebody mission qualified, it helps you learn those things about yourself before you do it in the jet for real. Focusing inside the cockpit on all the various tasks that go along with getting to where you're going and making sure that you're going to be able to employ the weapons effectively, get the effects that you want.
And beyond just flying the aircraft or staying awake to do so, students have to learn the B-2's main mission: dropping bombs on bad guys.
Really, our mission here is to be lethal. That's it. So if there is something on this planet that needs to be destroyed and our elected senior officials deem it necessary to be destroyed, the B-2 stealth bomber will find a way, and we carry the capability and range of weapons from the conventional side of a 500-pounder up to our 30,000-pounder massive ordnance penetrator, the GBU-57. And then if that can't kill it, we've got the nuclear option as well. So the B-2 holds just about every target on this planet at risk.
But regardless of the type of mission, from a training sortie to a strike mission, those who fly the B-2 have to execute at a high level, because when the B-2 is seen, it makes itself heard in a big way. The access Defense News has gotten to the B-2 would not have been possible without our production partner, independent journalist and producer Jeff Bolton. To find out more about our project involving the entire U.S. nuclear enterprise, I sat down with him to chat. Take a look. All right, Jeff, thanks for joining me today to talk to this project. So first of all, why Stratcom for a project like this? Why look at the nuclear enterprise for something like this?
You know, Jeff, since the end of the Cold War, at least the one we know that ended in 1989, there hasn't been a real big look at the nuclear enterprise. And in the last, you could make the case, 20 years, we've been dealing with terrorism. So dealing with a sort of ground-based threat in the Middle East that's antithetical to the nuclear threat. So during that time, we've seen rising nation states of China and Russia, for example. Russia wanting its old glory back, if you will, and China wanting to be a new world power. And their nuclear arsenals are significant. So you could make the case that we're really in a new Cold War today. And because of that, I just felt like it was a good idea to dig back into a subject that's been largely silent in the United States, and that's the entire nuclear enterprise.
So what are people going to see in this?
We'll call it a soup to nuts or stem to stern look at the people and the platforms and the command and control. It's such a big, unwieldy subject, and it's a difficult subject, frankly, too, because the weapons that we're talking about here can annihilate the human race. On the other hand, all the people that I have met along the way want to do just the opposite. They want to be professional to make sure that can never happen. And so the entire idea of how that works, how you find those people, how they interact with the weapon systems, and how they interact with their families, I think just makes a great story. So that's what we're going to see.
Was there one experience, one person you talked to there at Whiteman that kind of made you just go, this is what this whole thing is about?
A lot of those experiences, but I'll tell you that one of them that really struck me was when I interviewed the airmen, enlisted airmen that do the low observable piece of the B-2. You know, as everyone in the world knows, it has different coatings on it, radar absorbent materials, and to talk with them, they're all highly experienced people, but just the enormous knowledge and pride they have when a jet taxis out, to go for training or to go to war is stunning. These are the folks you never see in the mission. You just don't see them. They are in the background, rarely seen, rarely heard. When we had the opportunity to interview them, I chose to do that, and I wanted to. And as a group, they just struck me as what I think as American citizens, for me and you as civilians, look at and go, these are the quiet professionals. These are the reason that we sleep at night. It's these guys in this instance that make sure nobody can see that bird. They're the reason that it's as great as it is. And to get just to be among them was a huge honor. So they really, the low observable team, wow, amazing.
On the larger scale, though, when it comes specifically to nuclear weapons, what was your experience with talking with the people that deal with that? Is it something that's kind of like a cloud that hangs over them? Is that they have to think about all the time? What was your impression?
It's not a cloud that hangs over them. I can tell you the one thing that I know that I didn't know before I went is somewhat ties into your question. I asked myself, you know, is it possible, would I have the mental fortitude to hit the big red button and annihilate a city and potentially, you know, 100, 250,000 people, whatever it may be. And being among them, they draw so much on their history. And you go back to Hiroshima and Nagasaki in a war that we had to win, and we had the means to do that. They didn't hesitate. And it was very obvious to me that while they take the threat enormously, they're enormously serious about it, they're not particularly burdened by the task. They work hard to be professional, but I don't have not a sliver of a doubt that if the bell goes off, they're going to drop everything they've got, no question.
So what else are we going to see in this? As this project goes forward, is there one particular platform or what that you're most excited about getting the chance to experience beyond the B-2?
You know, so obviously in the entire nuclear enterprise, there's a lot of parts and pieces to it now. I don't even know what they are yet. We're still learning along the way. I'd like to think we know a lot, but we show up somewhere and we find out we don't know anything. B-2, B-52, missile fields, can't wait to see those folks up north. Missile boat, obviously, doing an embark with those guys. We're hoping to get that done last. I think it's kind of the capstone that we want to have for the whole series. But we're also doing command and control. That's one of the things that in the modern world is frankly a huge concern is, do we control these weapons? Because we read every day, down to our email getting hacked. We go, well, surely we couldn't hack something inside of our military. Well, we know that that's happened. And then we say, well, surely we couldn't hack our nuclear enterprise in any way. I don't know if it has or hasn't happened, but I know that they have devoted enormous sums of money and resources and time and energy to make sure that can't happen. So we're going to look at command and control as a part of this. We're also going to look at the NAOC jet, the National Airborne Operations Center. I think it may have another name today.
That is varied from NECAP to NAOC to everything.
A little bit longer. We're also going to go fly that airplane with those crews and understand them. And I think, so I'm excited about all that, but the stuff, Jeff, that brings me back are the people. The jets don't love you back. The missiles don't love you back. Even the B-2 is a multi-billion-dollar hunk of plastic and computers without only two people that are, again, wildly smart and dedicated to what they do to get in and operate it. So hearing their stories and seeing what drives them to join the military and do this particular mission is amazing. Really, really kind of, it's eye-opening.
Great. Jeff, thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Coming up, we'll find out the role of Whiteman Air Force Base and the B-2 in a potential nuclear war. On this week's Money Minute, Navy Federal Credit Union personal finance expert Jeanette Mack offers her latest tips.
May is National Military Appreciation Month, a celebration honoring our veterans, service members, and their families. While military discounts are offered throughout the year, the deals get even better in May. With everything from department store sales to amusement park discounts, there's tons of offers out there. But don't feel like you have to jump on everything. Focus on the deals that bring you the most value to you and your family. For example, if you're looking to refinance your car loan, it could not only lower your monthly payment, but some financial institutions are also giving $250 in cash back. That's bonus bucks on something you were already going to do. Also, it's the time of year when it pays to have friends in the military, especially since you're in the military too. Referral campaigns are everywhere, meaning you and your friends can get freebies or even cash for referring each other to organizations or financial institutions to which you already belong. It's a great way to pass on the awesome benefits you get to your friends and earn a little something for yourself. The truth is, you and your family should enjoy every benefit afforded to you, especially if it brings real value to your lives. You deserve it. We thank you for your service and happy Military Appreciation Month.
Thanks, Jeanette. We'll see you next week. To get more defense news coverage, be sure to visit our website at defensenews.com and subscribe to our early bird brief, delivered to your inbox every weekday morning to get you ready to start the day. And coming up, we'll find out the role of Whiteman Air Force Base and the B-2 in a potential nuclear war. The B-2, and by extension Whiteman Air Force Base, play a big role in any potential nuclear conflict. So every day, they're preparing and getting ready to execute their most important mission. Here's a look at how they do it. Only one American combat unit has ever dropped nuclear weapons in anger, the 509th Bomb Wing. As part of what was then known as the 509th Composite Group, 2 Boeing B-29s from the 393rd Bomb Squadron dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. To this day, the 509th wears a mushroom cloud as part of their patch to show their unique history. And while they've flown some of the most advanced bombers in the U.S. inventory, including the Boeing B-47 Stratojet and B-52 Stratofortress, along with the General Dynamics FB-111A, those aircraft pale in comparison to the 509th's current aircraft, the Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. The unit is currently based at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri and has one mission.
So if there is something on this planet that needs to be destroyed and our elected senior officials deem it necessary to be destroyed, the B-2 stealth bomber will find a way, and we carry the capability and range of weapons from the conventional side of a 500-pounder up to our 30,000-pounder massive ordnance penetrator, the GBU-57, and then if that can't kill it, we've got the nuclear option as well. So the B-2 holds just about every target on this planet at risk.
The B-2, and by extension the 509th, make up part of the airborne leg of America's nuclear triad, which also includes submarine-launched missiles and land-based intercontinental ballistic missiles scattered across the American West. That triad is designed to deter America's enemies from ever attacking her. But in order to do that, the 509th Bomb Wing has to be ready.
Strategic nuclear operations at the core of our mission set. So should that phone call ever come in, we will be prepared to execute our mission. That's the highest level of global conflict. So we're ready to do that. That in and of itself is a big deal. And for our nation, our job is to ensure here that we have a safe, secure, reliable, and affordable nuclear energy.
And while there are other nuclear bomber wings in the Air Force, the 509th has something very special: stealth.
And the stealth mission and what goes into maintaining these platforms at a very, very low observable levels to ensure that we've got access against any adversary that would want to challenge us on the world stage.
So how does the unit ensure they're ready for nuclear operations? It starts with just determining who can even get near them in the first place, in a program known as the Personnel Reliability Program, or PRP.
The program consists of holding certain members to a higher standard that are going to be used in the Nuclear Weapons Personnel Reliability Program. They have to go through certain screening processes to make sure they're qualified to work on the B-2s.
Another aspect of nuclear operations is the weapons themselves, which are the responsibility of the 509th Munitions Squadron. Their job is to both make sure the bombs are ready to go and load them onto the aircraft. And while it may sound simple, it's actually incredibly important.
The B-2 is a deterrence tool, but we don't do deterrence. The politicians, the people outside the gate, they do deterrence. When they call us, it has gone past deterrence. We do lethality, so we train for that mission here at Whiteman.
And when it comes to the types of nuclear weapons, Whiteman stands ready to get new ones in the coming years, as the newest version of the B-61 gravity bomb is built and ready for use. That weapon has a variable yield and is the primary nuclear weapon of the B-2. And Whiteman's nuclear mission also isn't dependent on the B-2 itself, as sometime in the future, the The aircraft will be replaced by the next generation B-21 Raider, also made by Northrop Grumman. But at the end of the day, to the men and women of the 509th Bomb Wing, it doesn't matter what type of aircraft they fly or what type of bomb they use. They're ready to go to execute whatever mission is asked of them.
We do not take the responsibility of flying that aircraft lightly, and that we are training and practicing every single day to make sure that we are lethal and we can destroy any target that we're directed to on this planet, and we will do it effectively and efficiently.
That's all we have time for this week, but if you want to see and read more, be sure to head over to defensenews.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Defense News. It's proudly sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. If you're a member of our nation's armed forces, the Department of Defense, or if your family is, we'd be proud to serve you too.